Ladies and gentle hands, welcome back to the hardcore world, and today we're getting nuclear. Yes, that's right. As you can tell, probably by the thumbnail, maybe the reason you clicked on the video today, we're gonna be making an awesome nuclear reactor right over here in the kind of a little bit in the distance there. And it's gonna go in theme with our nether hub that we've been working on over the past few, I guess, like month or so. If you're not familiar, our nether hub is this big old track right here, these minecart trails. And we've been, kind of connecting up our world through this automated minecart system. You can see that in some other episodes of the Let's Play. But right over here, we've been working on these other buildings and establishing our theme, honestly, very well. I'm very, very happy with how this has all been coming along. This kind of post-industrial, very, like, kind of Russian kind of style, I guess, we're going with our nether hub. And this is just, just to get you guys caught up to speed on how we're looking over here, and we're gonna be kind of creating a similar vibe in the actual, hub center of this area, because this is all just a little junction to go over to the desert and then to seaside over on the other exit over there. I know it's a lot of work just for a junction, but it's very satisfying for me. And yes, we'll be working on our nuclear reactor, which is actually going to be our gold farm in this world. So I've been talking about making a farm in the nether for a while now, and I've been like, oh yeah, it's going to be a farm that gives us so many more resources and all that fun stuff. But a gold farm is not all that useful by itself. So the whole facility we're going to be making is going to be a gold farm and also a bartering farm, so we can barter with some piglins, and they can give us a lot of really awesome resources like blackstone, string, I guess gold as well, just because we can make the gold from the gold farm. They give quartz, which is really nice because quartz is definitely one of the more annoying blocks to gather in this game. And I have gathered so much nether quartz in the past few episodes to where I feel like in the a general vicinity of our hub here, there's not a lot of quartz available. Obviously, I'm talking about down under. So the reason we're making it out over here, kind of right above these little mushroom pile right here, is because, as you can tell, when we get over here, this is all a nether wastes biome. I guess it's just called the nether. I thought it was called nether wastes for some reason. But if we hop in the cheaty cam real quick and kind of clip through the bedrock here, you can see there's a nice little chunk of nether waste right here, right on the edge of this crimson forest. It's a little deceiving, with the sky color and everything, because the sky color stays the same when you're in the crimson forest, but you can see there's like some cool little particles and everything in the air. And that's how I indicate if we're in the nether waste or the crimson forest. And inside the nether waste, only zombie pigmen can spawn, which is very nice. I guess piglins can too, but we can modify the farm to only use magma blocks. And I think piglins do not spawn on magma blocks. Oh my god, my tongue is getting twisted. So I hope you guys are very excited for this build. I am very, very excited. I've been cooking it up over the past few weeks, and it's time for me to start building it. But we have a lot of resource gathering to get to. Ow. And instead of just getting all the resources and kind of magically appearing with all of my shulker boxes, I think I'm going to take you guys along for the journey of my resource gathering grind. Now, once we make the nuclear power plant, I think I want to go in there, maybe make a cool little control room, so it'll kind of be like our centerpiece area to where, we'll have the gold farm be there, we'll have the bartering system and all of its resources be in there too, so we'll make like a nice control center area. But anyways, I think it's time for us to get some resources, so cue the montage. Alright, it's pretty much been a full day of resource gathering, but here we are at the construction site for our nuclear reactor. Not really nuclear, I guess, it's more gold reactor. Yes, that makes sense somehow. But anyways, here we are. All the resources have been gathered, and I decided to do a little bit of extra step, and I've kind of color-coded all of these as well, and kind of grouped them together. So I have all my woods right here. I got kind of some of my miscellaneous ones over here. And then all my gray tones all here in the middle, and then some extra ones over here as well. Hopefully it'll make it a little bit of a smoother experience for myself, because last time I kind of just threw everything together. It was random shulkers for everything, and it made it such a pain in the hiney to find, where my pale moss is or whatever. So here's kind of the basic outline for the nuclear reactor. I used some scaffolding because I thought it would look kind of cool to be like a construction site. Also, we do need to elevate this in the air because our ground level is kind of on that level right there. And this is right on level with it, 139, I believe. Yes, that is my y coordinate. And we'll be building up from here and maybe a little bit out as well. So my inspiration for this little reactor here is Chernobyl. Much like a lot of my other inspiration for this whole nether hub, it's very post-industrial, and I feel like nuclear reactor would also make a lot of sense just with how foggy and moody the whole nether is here. And I feel like it makes a lot of sense, you know, kind of polluting the nether with our nuclear reactor. Maybe it's a bit of a you know, like it's run down or whatever, but I'm really excited to begin working on this thing because there are so many different little tricks in, I don't know how to get up here. So many different tricks and techniques I used in this build, and it is such a massive build as well. Now there's one thing I'm trying to figure out is a lot of nuclear reactors that I am, you know, that you think of. When you think of nuclear reactor, you think of that big old cylinder, hyperboloid, I learned that today, kind of shape, kind of tube thing that is usually present in a lot of nuclear reactors. But specifically the Chernobyl reactor, which is what I'm trying to mimic closest to, that's my main inspiration, does not use that type of reactor. So for all my nerds out there who understand nuclear reactors, any nuclear physicists and all that stuff who are gonna end up in the comments, feel free to geek out with me and maybe correct me if I'm wrong on anything, because I'm just new to learning some of this stuff. But that big cylinder thing that I'm talking about is actually a cooling tower, and it's typically a part of a PWR reactor, which stands for pressurized water reactor. And the Chernobyl reactor is an RBMK reactor, which is a totally different type of reactor. It's actually a very unpopular reactor because it's quite unstable, hence the whole, you know, Chernobyl fallout and everything that happened there, the whole disaster. But I still want to include that that cooling tower because it really kind of like sells the whole idea of a nuclear reactor to just kind of glancing at it, right? When you see that big cylinder thing, you're like, that's a nuclear reactor. Like, it's kind of just stapled in your head. But the Chernobyl reactor does not have that. It just has a really cool kind of a thermal exhaust kind of tower at the top, which I am actually really excited to show you guys that because that's one of my favorite parts of the build. So when I designed this thing, I did add in the cooling tower, the big cylinder thing, and I'm still debating if I do actually want to end up adding it into the end. So we'll maybe build the whole reactor chamber here, and then we'll look at it and get a better idea of if we want that cooling tower or not. And then for the actual Minecraft part of this stuff, there's gonna be a big old room over here, and this is right above the nether waste that we have in you know, in the nether underneath here. So this is where our gold farm is gonna be. And then over here on this side is a bit more of like an office kind of area, just a kind of bit more of a basic building. And I think this is where we're going to have our bartering area, and we'll have all the items kind of flow over to like this area and do all of its sorting and bartering and all that fun stuff. The interiors for this thing is definitely going to be very interesting, and I'm going to be kind of winging it with you guys because I think that makes interiors a little bit more fun. So I think we got to kind of just get started on this build. So as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the montage. And would you look at that beauty? Our nuclear facility is complete. Oh my goodness, I am in love with my texturing on this building and this big old thermal exhaust here. That's what I was talking about earlier. I love this part of the build. It was such a cool little experiment trying to make the little scaffolding things and everything going up there, and just the little lines and all the, I don't know, it's such a cool little tower. You know, adding some height to this thing really elevates the build. But you know what I think really elevates the build is the texturing. I love this texturing, man. It is so awesome. Maybe up close is actually not the move here. All right, maybe I got a little antsy. Let's take it from over here. But look at the texturing, especially on this red side here. I love it. So as I said earlier, this is based off of the Chernobyl reactor, and honestly, it's pretty close to it. There's some, creative liberties I had to take because I'm not making the whole entire facility. Chernobyl is a really big area of, Chernobyl, the town, I guess, that it takes, that, that it's in. And this is kind of just like an extension of it. And I also added in a lot more color to it because the building itself is very neutral and a lot of like little tiny hints of blue, lots of gray tones, and we don't have a lot of those kind of lighter grayish blues in the game. The only block that has that is clay, and even that is too saturated. So I went in, added in some more colors, and had some more fun with it. So we have some little lines of orange kind of around the area. We got a lot of yellow kind of hinted as well. And these red parts here, I love this red section because look at the texturing on this thing. It looks like it's been kind of worn down. It's lost a lot of its paint. And even like the mangrove planks here kind of create a really nice kind of scrap metal look to it. And then, with the texturing we have going on here with some, we got some nether quartz in there. Let me get a little closer. And we got some freaking copper there. Uh-oh, you're not supposed to spawn. We have some exposed copper right there, a little bit of brick action, some red terracotta as well, a little tiny hint of diorite just to mix it up a little bit, and some pink terracotta there too, just for like a little bit of color variation on these red terracotta parts. Then we kind of cover it up some with some mangrove signs and buttons just to add a little bit more interest into the texturing and kind of to blend it out a little bit more. I think it works money. It's so money. And of course, not like any other YouTuber, I actually did texture the back. Look at this beauty. I love it so much. Now, we do have an issue with this build. First off, you're not supposed to be here, guy. I can't kill you right now, though. Yeah, we have one really big issue with this build is that it's supposed to be functional, and there's supposed to be a gold farm on the inside. And okay, I'm not a good Minecrafter, all right? I focus on the build first because I like the spectacle of a build. I mean, realistically, I just enjoy making builds. I don't really care for making farms. And frankly, the farm doesn't need to be super efficient, but this is supposed to be a gold farm that gives us a lot of, bartering stuff. And the gold farm that I designed when I was testing it, trying to figure it out, it is very slow and really bad. Now, it's not the worst gold farm ever, but like I have made real gold farms before, like the big old donut in the sky, the old style of farm, but those don't work anymore in the newest version of Minecraft. So I was like, okay, maybe I kind of invent my own version of that farm and kind of stick it on the inside here. So this is the inside of the facility. It's very empty right now. And I was planning on making a nice like few layers of magma in here and then having some piglins that are like aggro and they're like, they remember me and stuff. And then they would all funnel into a little kill chamber and then I would kill them with looting. And that's how we get all of our gold. But the issue is that the piglins are very slow at spawning, especially since we have a roof over this whole thing. And also, there's still the rest of the nether all below us here, and all of this down here is spawnable for those guys, which means I would have to come through and literally put carpet or slabs over everything down here, and like in a big radius too. So most of this nether would look kind of ugly, and not that I really care about the nether, I'm not gonna be building down here much, but I'd much rather not go through the effort of, slabbing up the entire nether, painfully slabbing up the entire nether. So I'm trying to figure out how we're going to actually adapt this into a functional farm. And I mentioned it earlier in the clip, but I think we're going to make the cooling tower. Initially, I was a little hesitant on doing it because it doesn't make sense for this reactor. This is an RBMK reactor and it does not have a cooling tower that most other reactors have. So let me quickly kind of hop into our creative testing world. And I can show you guys what I'm talking about and maybe some of the farm difficulties I was having. All right, so here we are in our creative copy of the world. Don't be threatened. This is totally a creative copy. You can see I've done some messing around over there as well. I've added in some extra detailing over here. But you can see this is the biggest change. We actually have the cooling tower in the back here, which I actually think is quite a nice little detail into the build. Has some nice height variation, still keeps some height there, a little bit more of a background as well, and the cool little nuclear symbol right there too. I think it's kind of sells the build a little bit better than just the building itself. But let me show you guys the gold farm that I had been working on. In a little bit of interiors, I guess. I was making a little bit of an outline here. But here's the gold farm I've been making. And it works, you know, these guys do spawn and they do funnel into this little hole here, and the killing chamber works. These guys right here are always aggro on me, so they keep spawning, they keep funneling into me. But the issue is that they kind of stop spawning quite often. And then there's moments in this farm where absolutely nothing is going on for maybe like 30 seconds. And then a group of them spawn, and then they funnel in for maybe another minute or two, and then it stops again for 15 seconds. It's not super efficient for a nuclear reactor. So my next plan of action is maybe we do make this cooling tower right here. And then inside the cooling tower is low-key our reactor, and we can make layers of the magma. We can do turtle eggs in the middle to kind of bait them into the middle. They fall down, they die, and then we can transfer the items over into this building. And then we can do all of our storage inside this little like interior area that we have here. And then also all the bartering stuff can happen on the inside in this area. But it'll kind of make this whole side of the building kind of useless. So I'm really trying to figure out what direction I want to go with this. It's tough too, because like this tower back here isn't technically accurate for the build. And it does kind of irk me in the wrong way, even though it does look really cool. But we should work on some interiors because I think that would still be really fun. We're still going to make that control room because I'm really excited and I've been really inspired to work on that. So let's hop back into the creative world. Oh, sorry. Let's hop back into the hardcore world and let's get started on the interiors. Interiors with barce. Oh yes, it's been quite a while since we've done some interiors, but here we are at the front entrance of the facility. Let's get started. All right, so my plan here is we're just gonna kind of start working out the general shape of the interiors, and I kind of want to go with like a typical kind of hallway office kind of vibe with it. And of course we need to slab everything because we don't want any bad guys spawning in our offices. It's all for the good people, aka just myself. So what I think I want to do here is have a hallway going to the right, a hallway going to the left, and this left one is going to go up and to the right, and this is where our control room will be, kind of floating in the middle of the air. Then on the right here, I think we'll have a little bit of a storage room underneath, and then maybe this main hallway could also lead to a storage room. Let's just try to get this main hallway done. Hello, this is Editor Barce speaking. I hope you guys are enjoying the video so far. Right now we're working on some banger interiors. They turned out super well, so I hope you guys stick around for that. And if you're enjoying the video so far, consider subscribing, and maybe while you're down there, leave a little like. I'm trying to hit 40k subs. I would really appreciate it. Okay, thank you. Back to the video. Bye. All right, so here we have our first little interior outline, if you will. Here's our first little junction on the first floor. Not a lot going on here. I actually might cut off this wall here because there's not really much to see on this right side here. But going forward here, I actually think because we're not going to make our gold farm on the inside here, I think I'm going to end up making the cooling tower on the exterior here after we're done making some interiors. We could make some big old graphite rods in the floor over here because Chernobyl, that was kind of the main way all of the temperatures were kind of regulated, kind of the way the heat was maintained. And we have these big old graphite rods we could install into the floors. It has a really cool pattern to it, so I think it could be really sick to look at. We can install some cool like fuel tanks or just like big old, you know, tanks on the side of the building over here. And then we can make this an access to that floor over there. And then maybe up here in the control room, you know, upstairs here, we have this access. And then maybe this could be a viewing room and also the control room. We'll take a little bit of creative liberty on that because, you know, obviously our control room is not going to be super realistic and functional the way I would typically want this to be functional. We still do need to plan out where we're going to have our bartering area and where we're going to have all of the storage for all that stuff too. So maybe we try to utilize some of the downstairs area here, or maybe we actually utilize some of the upstairs area. All right, let's get started on the outline for the control room here. I'm thinking we go kind of big on the back here, and it'll kind of have a nice curvature on this side. So it can be a nice like rounded kind of window going on. Right, okay, more stone has been placed. So we have the control room up here. I haven't placed in all the stone around this wall yet because I do think I want to make this a viewing window. So we'll make this nice and tall. We'll do glass kind of on this side, and then on the sides here, we'll make some cool looking control panels with a bunch of buttons that you can mash and everything. They won't do anything. thankfully. But they'll look cool, they'll look technical, and it'll feel like you're in Chernobyl dealing with some really high technical, high risk kind of stuff going on up here. So I think this will be our main room. We'll work on interioring. But we also worked on the downstairs over here, and this is going to be our storage area if we follow this track right here and go forward. This will be our access into the actual reactor, and I think this is where we're going to have all of our bartering going on. So we'll filter our gold into the building from probably this wall or maybe that wall over there. We'll shove the items all throughout here, and we'll have a bunch of piglins set up, so they'll be bartering all the time, and then all of their excess items will be transported over back here, and then this is where we'll keep all of our bartering items. And I went through the list, and I think there's only going to be about 8 items we're going to be keeping. So we also need to make some sort of access to the top of this tower right here. I think this is going to be where our AFK platform is going to be, so we don't have to slab up so much of the nether underneath us here. It'll be very minimal, just some caves on the top section of the netherrack. So I think if we set up an AFK spot right up here, it'll work perfectly. We'll make the cooling tower where the gold farm will actually be. Then maybe right here in this little spot, we can set up a minecart elevator going straight up this way. And then you can safely sit up in the AFK spot. Little AFK room will make up there. And then you could drop back down, probably like right next to the minecarts. And then you can safely come down here. You can check out the whole bartering system. You can see all the piglins doing their work. And then you can come back over here, come downstairs, go into the storage room, and grab all the items necessary. Alright, we just barely had enough slabs for slabbing up this whole place, making it all spawn proof, but we have just enough, and everything is all safe and sound now, so we can leave and go grab some resources and start decorating these hallways. And I'm excited to do that because I think I want to do a nice little blue terracotta stripe on the bottom layer of all of this, replace all the boring old stone slabs on the bottom here with some smooth stone slabs. Then maybe the walls, we kind of get a nice combination of maybe some pale oak and some quartz, although I don't know how much quartz I have right now, so maybe we do some other blocks. But we'll have some fun with it. I think we want to do a nice little blue and white kind of combination here, and then I think that will work just fine and dandy. Maybe in this room here we get a little bit more industrial and we get some more copper and all that fun stuff in here. But let's go back to the overworld, grab some of that fun stuff, and I'll be back and we'll get decorating. Woohoo! Alright, we got all of our resources thrown into these shulkers right here. We're going to be using a lot of these whiter, kind of darker colors, a little bit. We have a little bit of a gradient going on here. And we're going to do a nice little beehive trim in these hallways. We're going to work on these first because they're definitely the easiest to kind of plan out. And we're just kind of replacing all the stone up here. We'll work our way upwards, get all these hallways nice and decorated. And this control room, we're going to do a bit of a different palette, but we'll work on this after we do the hallways, just because I think the hallways will be very easy. So we'll do a little bit of a beehive trim along the floor here. And luckily it's all slabbed too. So these beehives have a really nice kind of a lip trim to them. And I think they'll work perfectly down here. So let's get started on that. Then we'll have a nice little quartz gradient on the walls. Hello, it's me again, Editor Barce. I thought I'd come in one more time during this little time lapse here and say sorry for the late upload. I be a busy boy and I be eating more than I can chew quite often with these videos. I just want to build bigger and bigger, and I'm having so much fun on these scales and like all these ambitious projects. I'm just an ambitious boy, okay? So I apologize for the delay. I'm trying to get on top of it, eating more than I can chew or whatever. But I appreciate you guys with your patience and enjoying the videos and all that fun stuff. Okay, back to the video. Bye. Alright, our hallways are decorated and they are looking snazzy. I love this texture. We have a really simple gradient of diorite to mushroom stem to bone block, then to quartz bricks, and then smooth bricks, or smooth quartz, sorry. It's been a long day. But yeah, it's a pretty simple gradient, you know, a nice and simple rule as well, just kind of following a very nice gradient, kind of following that texture palette. But every so often we're breaking it up too, just to add a little bit more weathering to this whole hallway. Now that's the whole idea, especially behind the diorite, because diorite's very messy as a texture. So I want it to feel like the paint is kind of peeling off the walls, showing a little bit more of the gray that's behind it. Then we also have some straight up andesite in some darker spots, and we cover some of it with some pale signs and buttons. One as a little bit of a trim around the room, and then secondly it also acts as kind of like a wooden cover up of those textures, and also a way to kind of blend it in to the rest of the wall texture. And I think it looks so fantastic. And we got the whole floor kind of all situated as well. We went over to this room as well, except I forgot to install some lights in here. Oh yeah, our light fixtures are pretty cool too. They're kind of just like the typical LED kind of bulbs that kind of, you know, on the strip bulbs that kind of exist in these sort of corridors. I haven't worked my way upstairs yet because we're going to do a little bit of a different palette up here and a lot more different detailing too, because we're going to have a lot more like technical stuff up here. So I want it to feel a lot busier in this room than it typically does downstairs, where it's very kind of simple, but yet very nicely textured. All right, now it's time to begin working on the coolest part of the interior section I'm going to be doing, is the control room in here. We're going to go heavily detailed, lots of little technical components all over the place. And the first thing we're going to do is kind of install a nice little table around the area. And I think we're going to have to make it kind of oddly on this level right here, just because we need to be able to place a bunch of redstone components on the top here. We're going very technical, very busy looking. Just from the reference pictures I'm following, you know, it's just a lot of buttons, an overwhelming amount of buttons, might I add. And a lot of stuff on the walls as well, so we'll probably have to add in some paintings, which I only have 2. But yeah, let's get a little crazy here. I think in this middle part here, we'll kind of keep it open, but everything else on the sides here, we're going to add in a nice little copper slab area all the way around. All right, we have like the component board, the component desk, if you will, fully installed. And now what I want to do is kind of add in some spots where there's chairs, and it'll be a little bit odd on the lower floors where we can kind of see into the ceiling here, but I think it's fine. You know, maybe it's a little bit of texturing, if you will. But we're going to come through and add in some red chairs. We're just going to do some mangrove trapdoors, I think. We'll do a little bit of this, and then on the sides here, we're going to add in signs. Ooh, that's a pretty fire chair. I like that. And look, now I'm working at my desk. Beep, boop, 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 boop. All right, now I want to install some extra little kind of wall panels here, or maybe some more technical stuff is going on. I just want it to look nice and computery, so I think we're going to use some of this polished basalt because it has these really kind of straight lines that I think might kind of convey some sort of technicality to it, some techno to it, if you will. That looks pretty good. And of course, redstone components are going to be like our best friend here, so I definitely want to throw in a crafter or two on this wall here, and I want to try to figure out if there's a way for me. Man, why does everything got to fly out that way? If there's a way that I can make it so the little redstone panel top here. Oh, that's exactly what I want. Okay, I want the grid to be facing out like this. Perfect. Okay, so we got to get like back over here a little bit. I'll take all that. Thank you. All right, very nice. We have our first little control panel right here. I think it looks pretty neat, and it's a little interactable too. You know, you can flick the lever and it'll turn that off and on. But yeah, I love using the comparators because you can always have the one little redstone torch light on. I think it looks really nice and just adds a little bit of extra color and a little bit more tech to it. All right, and on this wall, we're gonna do something a little bit different. I want to include this sort of weird grid that I see all over the place inside the Chernobyl interiors I'm referencing. And they have like a grid of all of the reactor rods, and they kind of just look like little tiny squares. So I think I want to do that with the bamboo blocks. I think that really conveys it quite perfectly, I will say. And it might be worth trying to get some bamboo variants in here. Oh, yes. Okay, I do have the regular bamboo. So we can try this out, and we can swap some of these out for the green ones. Just for a little bit of extra color. Ooh, I like that. I think I'm just going to kind of surround this with some exposed copper. And maybe we kind of switch it up on this and we do a little bit of a full block right there. Yeah, that looks pretty sweet. Got to add some more tech to it. So let's get some torches on there. Maybe some buttons. Maybe we do different color buttons too. That could be cool. All right, here is our little panel here. And maybe call me extra, but we have all these torches on the side. And it could be cool to maybe try to randomize them flickering on and off, so we can add like a little bit of a redstone repeater circuit back here, and then we could try to hook it up to some of these torches. So we could do one, maybe we do this one and that one. All right, it might look like a mess of wires right now, but let's try it out. Let's just send a little pulse around, and everything should be kind of randomized on when they turn on and off. I mean, that's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. I like that a lot. I do wish like all of them turned off and on, so maybe we try to go through and hook up all of these into a different source. Let's try that out. Why not? All right. I mean, that looks pretty good. They're all kind of randomized in their own pattern, and I gotta make sure everything is mob proof over here. Is everything covered in redstone that is spawnable? It looks pretty good to me. Let's go. I think little components like this are a nice way to kind of elevate the build just ever so slightly, give a little bit more life into this room, because otherwise it's gonna be pretty static without player interaction. And I think these little torch patterns is pretty awesome. All right, now let's decorate this little section right here. And I think using some pistons, we can kind of create a sort of pipe looking thing. So if we do this, the side texture here kind of looks like a pipe, right? And then if we place this on the back side, and we can kind of manipulate a sort of pipe, I guess. I don't know. Let me just show you guys. All right, that's what I was talking about. Look, we kind of created a little bit of like a pipe shape right here into the wall. It kind of looks good. It's a waste of my pistons, though, I won't lie. So I got to craft a few more when I get back to my base. Oh, my goodness. It's all for the detailing, okay? It's worth it. But we can go ahead and add in a little bit more foreground to this, too. So we'll add in some iron bars right here. And maybe we do on this side, we could do a little chain line. Oh, maybe we do this. Hold on. Hold on. One of my favorite details is to hook up a grindstone. And it kind of looks like a joint in a sort of like pulley system, or just some sort of, you know, chain or pipe system. So we could have something like this, and then at the end of it, we can throw on a lever like it goes into the roof. Oh, wrong way. Just like that. Oh, yeah, that's pretty sick. Oh, we do need to install some lights in this room too. I guess we gotta finish up the ceiling really quickly. So let me convert some of my smooth stone here into the proper block. All right, we got our ceiling installed, also with some light fixtures. This one's fully out. That's why I use the chains. And then we have this one with like some of the bulb being out, but a little bit on. And then this one, kind of the opposite of this guy right here, which is looking pretty sick. I changed out these chains for, whatchamacallit, lightning rods, because it's a little bit more color and it stands out from the light fixtures up there. But now we got to add a little bit more detail into this wall. And then I guess we might just kind of texture these pillars right here just to kind of make them feel a little bit more involved with the whole control panel area here. And I think I want to add a big red button over here. So we're going to use a target block with maybe a mangrove button on the front. Do I have mangrove wood? Oh, I do. Yes. All right, I think we're at a spot now where we just need to fill up these stone walls, and we're going to do it with a little bit of tuff. And I think on the bottom trim here, we'll do some nice polished truffed bricks. Yeah, those ones. And I think the last thing we need to do is kind of fill up all of the tables here to make sure they are non-spawnable. We don't want any more of these guys here. We don't want any workers in this facility. It's abandoned, you know? All right, I think I can consider our control room complete. Look at this masterpiece. I love how busy it is. And also I went through and added in some of these iron trapdoors on the roof to kind of look like some sort of ventilation, maybe some piping of some sort. I don't really know, but I think it conveys the idea of some more messiness and a lot of technical stuff going on in this room. I also added in a few more details onto this little wall right here. Add a little observer, some of these copper bulbs, and I added in a little lodestone and another one of these bamboo kind of grids, kind of similar to that guy over there. And put it all right here. Kind of filled up the tables with some more redstone components. Put some pots over here as well. And I think the place is really come together. I really like these chairs kind of making the place feel all kind of tied up and knotted. I think one last thing we could do is maybe we add in a little bit of a desk right here, and we should make this out of bamboo. And I think we'll just kind of make it out of slabs here. And I think that gets the point across. And then we could do a little bit of this. Maybe one more polished andesite stair. We can make one more chair right in this spot. All right, there we go. Nice little easy center table here for like maybe the head of the shift or whatever they're working here. Someone who can maybe call the wrong call and cause all of Chernobyl to go into fallout and explode. But who knows? I think that guy right here is a good candidate for this. But with that, I think we're done with some interiors. Let's move on to making the gold farm actually gold farm. After all that interior work, I decided to spend some time trying to figure out how my gold farm is going to work inside the facility, and I ended up wanting to go with the cooling tower, which as you're seeing right now is what I'm building. So I decided that the gold farm would be way more efficient if we were able to make it inside the cooling tower, because we didn't have to like slab up a bunch of the nether underneath. And then also with just like how the farm is designed, there's just more platforms for the pigmen to spawn on. And then we use the egg method to kind of bait those guys into the middle and they fall down to their death. And then we can collect all their loot and resources afterwards. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty simple farm. I think it was worth building as well because the cooling tower, it looks pretty freaking sick with the whole nuclear power plant in the front. All right, y'all, the gold farm is successfully installed and we've made a successful one indeed. And might I say, this gold farm is working pretty decently. It's running right now. Actually, if we hop into Cheaty Cam, we can kind of check out its progress and how much gold it's generating. And we can see the flow of piglin. Look at these guys falling down. I know this isn't the most efficient gold farm, but it will do just dandy for our needs. I think it's going to be generating about like, I don't know, maybe like a few hundred gold or so per hour. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't really ran rates on this thing or anything, but it's always expandable because we can just add more layers to this. Right about until like maybe this layer or so is where there's pretty much no point in adding any more layers. And this farm is pretty simple too. We're just using an egg in the middle, a turtle egg, and all the zombie pigmen are like, I want to stomp on the egg, and they walk towards it. But because they're dumb, they walk over the trapdoors and they fall to their death. And then we get all their loot. And what's nice about using fall damage to kill these guys is that they don't drop any gold swords or any like armor or anything they're wearing. They only drop rotten flesh and gold nuggets. So it'll be a little easier to kind of filter out all of the gold nuggets from the drops. But we don't get any gold ingots, which are probably the best kind of profit you can get from a gold farm. So that's a little unfortunate, but I think we'll just have to deal with it because otherwise I'd have to make like a manual killing chamber and everything. And I feel like that's a little bit more than I can chew right now. Maybe in the future we can upgrade this thing, but eventually we'll hook up a whole system to where we collect these items. We shoot them off on some like ice paths over here towards our storage room. And then we can shoot off all of the gold ingots to the rest of the bartering that's going to be in this big old open space here. And then we can filter all those items back into their respective items, like whatever we get from the bartering. So eventually this farm will be fully functional, but for now, we're just taking it nice and easy. This was a really big build. A lot of effort has gone into this. And I'd really appreciate it if you guys hit the like button or subscribed. But let's just get another view of this beauty over here on the distance. I love this thing. Eventually we'll go through and we'll add in some more terraforming, some more rocks around this area, just so it doesn't feel so, you know, like just kind of isolated in the air, suspended in the air in the middle of nowhere. So we'll add a lot more context to this in the future. But for now, I think that's going to do it. Thank you all so much for watching. Of course, if you're new to the channel, make sure to get subscribed, and I'll see you guys all next week. Bye!